Talk with Tyson Bryden. Come on for the ride. We'll take you inside. Non-stop rock talk. It's non-stop rock talk with Tyson Bryden. Come on for the ride. We'll take you inside.
Welcome to Nonstop Rock Talk. I am your host, Tyson Bryden. On today's episode of the show, I happily welcome vocalist, guitarist, songwriter, producer, and engineer, Rob Kane. Rob, welcome to the show. How are you doing, man?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. It's like we said before we started, it's Friday.
It's Friday.
It's Friday. I think that says it all. So, Rob, your work as a musician speaks volumes, as not only do you front the band Kane, but as well you've worked with XTB, Love and Chains, Apoptic Lovers, and Metal Heart. And I'm sure that's probably just touching on some of it. You have also contributed background vocals to Steel City's Reverence album. And I also must make mention you have taken part in 2 F&A Records tribute releases, doing Down Boys on Song and Dance Man, a tribute to Warrant, and recently contributing Back for More on what is called Back for More, a tribute celebrating the music of Ratt, with Sean McGee contributing lead guitar on that. That's a great body of work, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the Down Boys thing I'm really particularly fond of and honored to have been a part of that. You know, Doc from F&A puts out those things. Hey, we're going to do this tribute album. Send your stuff in, and you send your stuff in, and the tracks that they choose for the album is selected by a committee. And at the time, I had no idea that Janie's daughter, Maddie, was a part of that committee.
That's so cool.
So, after I got picked for that and, was told, hey, you guys made the cut and everything, and I found out that she was a part of the committee and had, been a part of, selecting that. So I was just like, oh my God, that was awesome. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. I mean, the hair metal guru did an interview with her. I don't know if you caught it. And she is very articulate and well-spoken and very positive. He's a big Warrant fan, so he's like gone on the spectrum of getting Bobby Brown and both Janie's daughters. Yesterday on the way home from my gig, I listened to the Stephen Sweet one he just did. And it was fantastic. So, but getting to Maddie, she's got a wonderful voice too. I've heard her sing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right. And it's kind of cool that she's carrying on his legacy, because I'm sure you're a big fan. I'm a huge fan as well.
Oh yeah.
Warrant
Absolutely.
Warrant was one of those bands I grew up listening to, being a teenager, and when they came out, and Janie Lane as a songwriter himself, he was kind of at the top of that list of songwriters in the genre, right?
Oh yeah. The music, his voice, and like you said, the songwriting, the lyrics were just, they were fantastic. They really hit home. They were personal. He's definitely up there with the greatest of songwriters from the era. Yeah.
Yeah. So it must have been pretty cool to do Down Boys. It
was very cool. Yeah.
Was that one of your favorite Warrant tracks, and that's why you chose it?
It is. I had done a few and sent them in, and of course, I had done Heaven, and that was when I sent it in. They're like, no, you can't do that, because that was what was that was the song Maddie was doing. Yeah. But yeah, I had chose Down Boys because when Warrant came out way back in the day, that was one of the first songs that hit the radio, MTV, and I had done that in a band, a cover band that I was in way back when, and I love the song, so I thought, yeah, that's a great one to do.
Yeah, Heaven's a funny one, because apparently there are 2 different pressings of Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinking Rich. I don't know if you knew that, with 2 different versions of Heaven. And I have an original vinyl, but I don't know which version I have. I don't know if I have I don't know how, I know on the internet it says the difference, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure mine's one of the first pressings, but, or maybe it's a second generation pressing. I don't know. I wish they would, like, when they did a re-release, when they did the re-release, they put both versions on it so people could hear what the difference was.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think there's actually a third, right? Because there was
A radio edit or something?
the first one they did. Yeah, exactly. They did the first one, and then they went back in and redid it. I think one was more of a demo. And then, yeah, there was the radio edit version. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the label wasn't sure if it was going to be a hit, or which I'm like, how do you know that's not a hit? Especially in the day of the ballad, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah, anybody could have listened to that and went, oh yeah, that's a single for sure.
Exactly. So, with all that said, let's talk about the new Kane album entitled Echoes of Yesterday.
All right.
As we begin to discuss this album, I will say it's a stellar piece of work. There is a quality about it that kind of truly hits my soul as I was listening to it. It's right up my alley of what I love listening to, hard rock, heavy metal, whatever you want to term it as. And this album also features guitarist Sean P. McGee, as it says on the streaming for the album.
Right.
Who also serves as your creative partner, I understand. Tell me about the vision of Kane and how, when writing for Kane, as opposed to, say, Love and Chains, it is approached partially with this being your name associated to the project, it falls more in line to a little bit more creative flexibility?
Well, my voice is my voice, right? And I lend that to those projects. But with Love and Chains, Mike Floros, the guitar player, writes most of the music,
of the material.
And,
okay,
right. And so what we did is he just put the stuff out there and said, hey, which of these songs do you like, do you connect with? So the Love and Chains has a different style because of the Mike being the main songwriter, and which is the difference with Kane. Still my voice, but Sean is the main songwriter. And Sean is the main songwriter in Apocalyptic Lovers, which way back in the day was Love and War.
Yeah.
So with Love and War, we had went our separate ways, got back together about 12 years ago, recorded that album, and we're working on a second one. But there was still a lot of material, and Sean and I still were writing. I sent him some new stuff. So a lot of the stuff on Echoes of Yesterday is reimaginings or like remasterings of songs that were written back in the late 90s.
Right.
In addition to some, like Beat the Bullet is a newer song that we wrote. And that was I sent, hey, here's a concept, here's the lyrics. And then Sean came back with that spaghetti Western opening and
I love that.
the whole, which is really cool. So, so basically the sound, it's still us, it's still our signature sound, but it's different because there's different, songwriters, different ideas, different visions coming from different people.
Yeah. And and Mike is the one that hooked us up, and he had reached out to me and said, hey man, can you have Rob's just put out this new album, man. Do you want to talk about it? I was like, yeah, that'd be great. That'd be so cool. So here we
awesome.
are. And I'm glad.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And I'm glad he did, because generally, sometimes you don't know where to get your music. If you don't know, unless it gets sent to you, you're not sure. So when something comes across that you really love, you're like, well, thank you very much. So here we are. Now, I understand you are in the Pittsburgh area.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorite cities. My wife and
I love it.
Yeah, my wife and I were there last summer. I've been a bunch of times, but we went to the Pirates Blue Jays series because I'm up in Toronto, so we came down to see the Blue Jays and stayed for a few days, and we love the city. I fell in love with it the first time I was there. I mean, it's somewhat of a blue collar city, but it's not a massive city, and it has a kind of like this eclectic quality to it. The bridges, the scenery in the background of the mountains and the rivers. Do you draw any inspiration as an artist from living in the area and your surroundings of where you come from?
Wow, that's a good question. Yeah, probably. I mean, you know, I guess not consciously, but I'm sure subconsciously there are, things, events, people, places that I've been that, impact what comes out. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, when we were there last summer, I hadn't done it before, but we did the trolley ride up Mount Washington, and we ended up going for lunch at this little Mexican restaurant that was up there, and it's just such a cool vibe. And every time I see Pittsburgh in movies, like say for instance the Van Damme movie which is Sudden Death was filmed in Pittsburgh, and She's Out of Your League is done in Pittsburgh, and I was like, I know that spot, I know that place. Like they just it comes across as it is in movies. Some cities don't, but Pittsburgh does. It has that, it's just got that great quality to it that it comes across so well in movies, and as soon as you see it. I think it's kind of like San Francisco as well. As soon as you see San Francisco in a movie, you know where that is.
Oh yeah, yep.
So
yeah, definitely the skyline, and like you said, the rivers, the skyline, the bridges. There's definitely unique features to Pittsburgh that when you see it on film or pictures or in a movie, and of course, I don't know, not sure if you were coming in that way, but everybody talks about the tunnels and coming through the tunnel, and then boom, there's the city right there, and that's, everybody talks about that being, and it's a spectacular view.
I have been through the tunnel. The first time I came to Pittsburgh, my dad and I were in Pittsburgh. We were on like a baseball trip. We started in Boston, went to New York, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. So we put on a lot of miles, and that was kind of one of my things. My dad had a story about this. My dad had gotten sick and had to have surgery, and I was like, I need to spend more time with him. And I was like, this would be a great way for us to connect, because as a kid, we would listen to baseball on the radio in the backyard as we were throwing the ball around, kind of thing. That was kind of the way it was for me as a kid growing up. There was always music, but there was also sports. So that's how that came to be. But we did drive through that tunnel going to Cincinnati, and I mean, we were leaving, we'd already been there, but even coming from New Jersey, New York, coming around and coming into it, and it's like, wow, this is so cool. Yeah. So anyways, I'm glad that we were able to talk about Pittsburgh, because I mean, I don't generally get to talk about a city like that, of my love of something like a city. So it's cool that you were there and we got to talk about it. So, but moving on, as we talked about the Warrant tribute, but you also did the Ratt tribute, doing the song Back for More. As a guitar player myself, Warren DeMartini is a huge, huge influence.
Oh yeah.
To the fact that I own 2 Warren DeMartini Charvels. That's how much I love Warren's playing. So, and as you can see, I'm wearing a Dancing Undercover shirt. That's my favorite Ratt album, believe it or not. I think because I love the songs, but I love the sound of the guitars on that album. I think the guitars are just phenomenal how they sound. So growing up, mentioning these bands, were these bands that influenced you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's interesting, right? Because you get people in a band, everybody has their own influences, but there's certain stuff that, like Ratt, like Stryper, like, Dawkins, that, everybody has that commonality. But then there's other bands you're like, yeah, they're okay, but, someone else loves them. But yeah, absolutely. Dawkins, Ratt, Poison, Ozzy, all that stuff. definitely huge influences on our music. Yeah. And my singing style, my writing style, the music that I love is definitely that era and those bands. Yeah.
Yeah. So you liked the bands with those are all my favorite guitar players. George Lynch, Jakey Lee, and of course Randy Rhoads, Zach Wild.
Yeah.
And Warren DeMartini. I mean, there's a few others in there. Doug Aldridge I'm a big fan of his as well. And John Sykes. But it's those guitar driven bands that and when you listen to this album, this is the exact type of thing, is that guitar driven music with great guitar playing.
Yeah. Yeah. Sean is definitely a killer guitar player. He writes great music, plays great rhythm. And of course, his lead work is fantastic.
Unbelievable.
I love that kind of music. I am a guitar player, right? But I cannot play like that. So I'm jealous. I wish that I could play like Sean. I wish I could play like Xander in the band here that I'm in XTB. I just don't have that ability, but I strive to play like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And to listen to those type of guitar players, I always say, I'm like, those guys were set apart because they had there's little nuances in their playing, like even when they're playing a chord, they'll bend it or something like that, or they'll dig into it. That just gives it this flavor that created that sound of the 80s, of that guitar sound. I mean, taken from Eddie Van Halen, of course, like Eddie started all that and everybody just kind of went with that. And it kind of started this whole revolution, right? Of guitar heroes in the 80s.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting when you listen to those players, so much that you can tell, hearing a song that somebody did, together as a collaboration, right? And you're like, that sounds like George Lynch, but this isn't Dawkins, right? Or that sounds like Richie Sambora, but this isn't Bon Jovi. What's going on? You can definitely tell stylistically, the way that they phrase things, bend strings, their tone. Definitely, yeah, you can definitely tell those players. They're very distinctive, yeah.
And Kiss was always one that pissed me off when you could tell that it wasn't Ace. And you're like, what are you doing? Like, you listen to a live too, and that's all Bob Kulick. And you're like, you're not fooling us. That is not Ace Frehley.
Right, yeah.
And like Creatures of the Night putting Ace on it, and Ace is not on it. And you're like, none of this sounds like Ace Frehley. But you're trying to make us believe that it is, so those things kind of ticked me off, because I'm like, you can't, as listeners of fans of guitar players, you can't fool us. And as you're saying, that goes back to your point of knowing that, of who's who. Danger Danger did a song on their third album called Still Kickin'. And the solo is that song, Reb Beach and Andy Timmons together, and it's like wow. So Andy's on one side, Reb's on the other, and and you can tell it. But to hear those two flavors together of these two incredible guitar players, it's like wow.
Right? Yeah. Yep. So, both of those guys are fantastic players.
Oh, absolutely. Reb's off the charts, and so is Andy. Now, I want to discuss some of the material on the album. We won't go through all the songs, but a few of them, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay, you did mention Beat the Bullet, which starts off the album, and you said it's got this Western, this Western-like thing with whistling. Spaghetti Western, I guess that was kind of, when I heard it, I was referencing to those old Clint Eastwood movies. So it's
right.
But the opening riff then changes gears, and it totally crushes. And like I said, to hear it through headphones was quite a rush. The vocal melody is amazing. Possibly you can give me an idea of what do you know? I'm assuming that you didn't. Did you write the lyrics on this one? Or no, you didn't.
I wrote the lyrics.
The lyrics. Okay.
For the most part, yeah. There were. I sent the lyrics to Sean, and then he tweaked some things. But yeah, the lyrics on that one is mostly me.
Okay, perfect. So what was your premise of Beat the Bullet? Where were you going with that?
Well, I started with the title, right? And said, okay, let's come up with a cool title. And, you know, Beat the Bullet there's a Vane song called Beat the Bullet.
Yes.
And I had just been listening to Vane. And so I was like, oh, Beat the Bullet. That's a cool. And I think there's also a Danger Danger song.
Yes. Yeah.
So I thought, okay, that's a cool title, right?
Yeah.
Let's start with that, and then we'll write the lyrics around it. And so it just, it ended up being kind of having that Western, concept, that Western theme. Hey, it's a showdown, send it, whatever. I mean, it's not specifically, written to be like a spaghetti Western, but it's more of, hey, you know what? Life is rough. Work can get down on you, your girlfriend, your wife, life can just, but you know what, send it at me. I'm going to shoot away. I'm going to beat the bullet. And that was kind of the concept.
That's cool. I love that. Ironically, you mentioned Vane. Our 11-year-old is wearing a Vane No Respect t-shirt as we speak.
Nice.
I had gotten it off a site and I was like, I don't think it was, I think it was from China and the sizing wasn't right. So I was like, here, do you want this? And then I woke up this morning and she was wearing it. And I was like, that is so cool. I don't think she knows the song though. I don't think she knows Beat the Bullet, but it was cool just to see an 11-year-old. But she likes all that stuff. Like she loves
awesome.
She loves Bret Michaels. We've gone to see Bret a few times and she's just in awe of Bret Michaels. She asks all these questions. So it's one of those really cool things of passing on that all these years later, 30, 40 years later, passing on this Poison thing. So it's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. So You Better Run to me, it had like a Rat-like quality to that opening riff. And I love how the vocal and the guitar in the verse really drive together. They mesh really, really well. Then you build up with a second guitar in the end of the verse, and that sounds killer. And drumming wise, it had this really wicked vibe, and it doesn't follow this straight pattern. It's kind of, like it's really musical almost when you listen to it. What can you tell me about this song?
Well, that one was Sean.
Yeah.
That was originally titled something different. That one's a rehash of stuff that we had done a long time ago. And honestly, I gotta think about it. I don't remember what it was originally called, but we were like, yeah, we don't like the lyrics. These are stupid. Let's, but we like the music. So yeah. Sean, and then Sean also was like, hey, let's change this up and make it more modern. And so, yeah, he originally sent those drums with the bass of that and his vocal demo with the idea, and then the two of us worked on the lyrics, but the concept was You Better Run. And yeah, it's kind of got that. I'm not a drummer, so I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, I know what you're talking about in the verses. It's kind of like a rolling snare. Like it's just not, you know what I mean? It's not, he's not, there's ghost notes and he's, I
couldn't describe it either. I was listening to it and I was like, how am I going to describe this? I'm like, it's kind of unorthodox. It doesn't follow straight to what the beat is. But it's not off. It's just really cool. It just adds more depth to the song, I guess you could say. And it is very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a jazzy, it's like a rolling, that's like a galloping thing with the snare.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I loved that. Okay, so Back on My Feet. Again, the guitars sound killer. I love how the guitar actually sounds underneath the vocal. It almost has a distance quality to it. Like when you listen to it through headphones, the vocal's here, and then the guitar is it's got some, like it's almost EQ'd a little bit differently, and it's kind of below the vocal. So it's kind of, it meshes well, but it has separation almost. I think that's the best way I can describe it. And then the ride cymbal hits right. It's like when you're listening in headphones, it's like behind your ear almost. Like when you're listening to it in headphones, you can hear that ride there. And I love that. That's the beauty of listening through headphones sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
Right. The songs are so well crafted. There is, like I mentioned before, so much depth. Do you know if is this a song about coming back from a bad situation? I mean, back on my feet.
Yeah, essentially. That again was one that was written, way back in the day that we revisited. And yeah, it's essentially, hey, you can kick me, you can beat me, life can get you down, but I'll fall down, but I'm getting back up. I'm going to get back on my feet. Yeah, that's exactly what that's about.
I love that. And then Still Kickin', some more positivity again. Again, loving the vocal delivery. I love your phrasings, how your phrasings go.
Oh, thank you.
Which I think, I mean, that's an art in itself, is phrasing within a song and playing. I think sometimes we take songs for granted to the fact, like, unless we really focus on it, and I'm the type of guy that focuses on what I'm listening to. So when I hear stuff like that, I was like, that's really interesting. That really captures me. And these vocals are huge. And I mean, I mentioned that you're a production engineer. You have a production engineering background?
Yes and no.
No?
I'm self-taught. I've always paid attention when we were in the studio, watched the mix engineers. If I was lucky enough that when Apocalyptic Lovers put out their album, that I was able to go and stand behind Michael Wagener and watch him mix it. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I've been doing it for I don't know, 10 or 12 years now, and yeah, when I first started, I was awful.
Really?
So I've refined things, and I watch a lot. I talk to a lot of different people. Ty Sims, who is engineer, did the Steel City and Love and Chains albums.
Yeah,
I've talked to him and been like, "Hey, how'd you do this? And what are you doing there with EQ and compression and things like that?" So I ask a lot of questions, and yeah, it's funny that you talked about the ride. Because I remember exactly how we did that to get that ride to be prevalent in that song.
I love that. Yeah, I always love hearing the ride cymbal, especially when you hit it on the bell, just to how.
Oh yeah.
That just, it stands out to you. You're like, that is so good. I know it's probably a simple technique, but at the same time, it adds. I mean, Tico Torres from Bon Jovi was classic on those.
Oh yeah,
Slippery in New Jersey, of using the ride cymbal, and you always heard it. And someone mentioned that to me. I think it was Pete Evick, about that ride cymbal, and I had to go back and I was like, "You're right." Yeah, I was like, and he was good too at the fact that he would do double hits on the ride as he was playing. It was just a really cool dynamic. Now, in terms of producers and engineers, are there, going back in the day, producers that you admired? I don't talk about production a whole lot on my show, which I would love to, and I've tried to get I tried to get Howard Benson to come on the show, and he's like, "You don't want to talk to me." I was like, "I kind of do, because I want to pick your brain."
Yeah.
I want to go a different route on this show, where we're not just, we're talking not about the stories, but about the actual music and what you did, and, picking someone's brain.
Yeah. I am not one, it was only recently that I got into, mixing and, recording my own music. And I've always listened to the albums with an intent ear, but never really paid attention to who did that. I never knew Michael Wagener, mixed all of that stuff, or Max Norman, or, Mutt Lange, or any of those guys. I just listened to music and was like, "Oh, I love that voice," or "I love that guitar," and it wasn't until the last several years that I was like, "Oh, that was Michael Wagener. Oh, Michael Wagener did that too, Oh, that's a Mutt Lange. Oh, I didn't know. Oh, I can hear it now, right? You can tell different producers. So, I mean, for me, it's more, yes, there are definite styles and definite albums that I'm like, man, that was mixed great. But honestly, I'm not one of those guys that is rock and roll history kind of,
Yeah.
Probably if you gave me an album, I could be like, oh, that's Mutt Lange and certain people, but I just kind of listened to, like you were saying, I listened to it with headphones, listened to it a lot in the car or wherever, and always was like, oh, I like the way that, that vocal reverb is. I like the way that they, he sang that phrase, and at the end of it, there's that delay. It just like adds depth and space and adds to the album. So I've always heard that stuff, but I honestly never really paid attention and could tell you who it was that made it that way.
Yeah, it's funny. Like we mentioned, Michael Wagener, he did "Dog Eat Dog" by Warrant.
Oh yeah, yep.
And the cool thing was he put his German touch on it. He would have what was that song? Bitter Pill? Is that the one?
Bitter Pill.
Bitter Pill.
Yeah.
That chant. There was like a chant kind of thing in it that obviously was his influence, because it was more of a German European thing, and he would do that sometimes. He would bring that flavor to the music where say a guy like Beau Hill, who's totally American, his music sounded like American music, if you had to term it.
Right.
Like Cherry Pie is the ultimate American song, I think, so those little nuances of different producers. And then Bob Rock was just known for that big drum sound.
Oh yeah.
Huge bombastic drum sound, that you're just like, wow, how did he even do that? I spoke to Carmine Appice the other day on the show, and that interview will be coming. And he talked about, he goes, I think Bob Rock used our same drum sound on the Blue Murder album that he used on Dr. Feelgood. He's like, that's, I think, where that came from.
Oh yeah. I can see that comparison for sure. Yeah.
And I just thought that was the coolest thing. I was like, I never realized that until you mentioned that. I was like, so I mean, I guess I'm kind of a music, I guess, a geek when it comes to really listening, and hence why I do this show, because those are things that I want to know about. And I mentioned that. I said there's sometimes if I reach out to an artist, I'm like, I kind of like doing things on a different way than other guys, because I want to talk about music. I don't particularly care about all the other crap, that went on. We all know what happened in the 80s, right? So
sure.
Right. So anyways, I got off on a tangent there. I apologize. Tearing Me Apart. This one isn't in your face. It kind of has a pop sensibility to it, but it's still rock.
Yeah.
It's just that ear candy. You know what I mean? Like if you heard Jesse's Girl by Rick Springfield, not that I'm comparing this song to that, but that is ear candy. And I think that's the only way I can to describe it. So it's more in line. It's got that early kind of 80s type vibe, and those double snare hits they stand out amazing. They sound great, and the chorus is catchy with these great background vocals. Give me your thoughts on this one.
Well, I agree totally. That's definitely, got that poppy feel. It's happy. It's got a hooky chorus, and honestly, I never thought about it, but yeah, you're right. The double snare hits. That's a cool, unique feature of that song.
Love it.
Yeah, there's that one. There's a lot of backing vocals on that. Yeah,
it's amazing. Like, it's so good. It sounds so cool. Like when you're doing vocals, are you doubling? Are you tripling and then doing harmonies? You're probably doing, as I listen to it, I'm like, there's a lot of work put into this.
It depends on the song. There are certain songs where I will, double, and I'll either actually sing it twice to, get the real doubling.
Yeah.
Or, use a plugin, use an effect to artificially get that, that doubling. But I honestly don't use the doubling too often on the main, like the lead, the main vocal.
Yeah.
With the backing vocals, it's really crazy because, that's a thing that a lot of people don't realize when you listen to it, okay, there's 4 guys in the band. Okay, I'm listening to the record and there's 4 voices. No, there's not 4 voices. There's 24. There's 4 guys that are singing backups, right? But one guy is singing that backup 4 times. The other guy is singing his part 4 times, and you know what I mean. And so that's what makes it big. That's what makes you hear it better. Which it doesn't take away from, people who do that live. You can still do that live, but just on record, there's a lot of we're talking about producing tricks and mixing tricks that, So on that particular song, I think there's about 16 or 18, backing vocal tracks on that. Just, pretties it up and makes it big.
I love that. I was just listening to an interview with Phil Collin from Def Leppard, speaking of background vocals. And and he was talking about the fact of when they started working with Mutt Lange and doing their background vocals. He's like, you guys are a band from a blue collar town. So you're not going to it's not going to be as believable to do Journey background harmonies. So they're like, he kind of termed it as, kind of make it like the Sex Pistols. So their background vocals are based on more of a Sex Pistols punk thing, which I thought was so brilliant. I was like, that, you know what, now that you listen to it, it's like, because it's a harmony, but it's like more of a whisper, like their background vocals are just so defined, right? They're so different from anybody else when that came out.
Yeah, well, that actually is that's a Mutt Lange trick, right? There actually are whispers in a lot of those backing vocals. So, when they sang a part, they would then go back and also whisper it, and it made it sound, like those backing vocals were recorded in a big stadium. Yeah.
Yeah, which is amazing. Yeah. I mean, there's little tricks of guitar stuff, and I have mentioned this on the show before because I tried it. I think it was on Hysteria, of those ringing notes. He would make them do a chord 1 note at a time, and then mesh it all.
Oh,
together, right? And
in some that I've heard Phil and some of the other guys in the band do some interviews and things, and there's a little bit of a stretch to that, but you're right. It wasn't that they played the chord and they played a single note, and then like on a guitar, there's 6 strings on a guitar, right? They didn't play a single note and then they played the second note, and they did that 6 times. But there are sections where they overdubbed and maybe played a dyad or a triad, two notes, just to make that part bigger or to make that melody line stand out a little bit more. Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely a studio trick. Yeah,
I actually tried it because I was curious, and I doubled it. So I did it twice, and because I wanted to see what happened at the end. So I did each string at a time, and it rang like crazy. It was it was like, wow, it was like, this actually works. And I told my buddy, I have a good buddy, his name's Kevin Gale. He was in the band Slick Toxic, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. They're a Canadian band on Capitol Records. Anyways, I told him, and he goes, "You are insane. Why would you even do that?" I was like, well, because I was curious.
Well, hey, I mean, that's how stuff happens. And, it's the record. You're like, hey, let's just try this and see what it sounds like. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I was working on a demo of a song. So I was like, this would sound perfect here. So I'm going to try it. And it did. It turned out really well. I was happy with it. So the album closes with Tonight. And I'm like, Tonight? Huh, what is that? Which, for those that are Ozzy Osbourne fans, will know that this is from Diary of a Madman, which is one of the greatest songs on Diary of a Madman that, as far as I'm concerned, does not get enough credit. It is such a great song. This showed the depth of the Blizzard of Oz band and the songwriting combo of Bob Daisley and Randy Rhoads at its finest. Yeah. This is such an incredible song, and I love your take on it. It's a little bit different from the original, but as soon as the melody hits at the beginning, you're like, I know this. What is this?
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Right. Which I thought it captures you, right? So why did you guys choose to redo that song?
That originally was something that, so Sean, which I didn't know this, I've known Sean for like a million years.
Yeah.
Sean got into guitar playing because he heard Ozzy, and one of his favorite guitar players is Randy Rhoads.
How can it?
So
Totally with it.
yeah, to hear Sean play, you'd think it was more like Warren DeMartini or a George Lynch, but it's Randy. So that he had the idea to do an Ozzy song and do, something that was not one of the most popular songs. And like you said, that Tonight it's an awesome tune. It's so well written, and to reimagine that with more piano and just do it, differently, pay tribute to it so you recognize the song, but make it different, a little bit more modern, was his idea. To honor, he loved the song, and just to honor, Randy Rhoads and Ozzy. So it didn't make the cut for the album that it originally was slated for. And we said, when I heard his guitar playing, the lead work that he did on that, he was just on fire.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And I'm like, dude, we got to release this. So he's like, well, let's put it on this one. I said, sure, absolutely. So yeah, that's how that made him.
Yeah, cool. I mean, that song potentially could have been a single, but I don't think for Ozzy it, at that time, could have been a single. You know what I mean? Maybe because it's got such a great melody quality to it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Ozzy was coming from Black Sabbath, right? And with the more heavier, darker, and then you've got the Ozzy stuff. And I think that Ozzy wasn't known for, that's some kind of a ballad, really.
Except for Changes, maybe, which is totally unorthodox for Black Sabbath.
True.
Right? But this song was,
that's true.
But this song's more, Changes still had it was dark. It had a darkness to it. Where Tonight's got a melody quality to it. You had to, like, when you think of Diary of a Madman, you think of Flying High Again, Over the Mountain, Believer's like could be a Black Sabbath song. Like, it's got that quality to it.
Yeah.
So as the back end of Diary of a Madman, like SATO and Tonight and Diary of a Madman, and I know I'm leaving one off and I can't remember what song it is, but that, to me, that album I enjoy more, as much as I love Blizzard of Oz. I think the depth on Diary of a Madman, you could see the evolution of where, and they did it very close together, but it's
right. Yeah.
The evolution of the band, of how they were moving forward. And it's just unfortunate, bad timing and what happened to Randy, that we didn't get more. But my understanding that Randy was leaving the band anyway. So who knows what would have come after that. But I just think there's so much brilliance in this song of, I think, Randy as a player and the structure, the songwriting structuring. So I'm so happy to hear that you guys redid this song.
No, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed that. Yeah, I love listening to that, and again, I'm one of those people, man. I wish I could play like that. So when I hear Sean just start ripping on that, I'm just like, oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's, great guitar player. He did a great job. He really did it justice. So hopefully you can tell him that this guy I listened to, I did a podcast with, loves your guitar playing. So
he will definitely appreciate that.
Cool. Is he based in Pittsburgh too?
No, unfortunately, he is not. Sean is out in Arizona.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah, he's originally from the East Coast, but he's been out in Arizona for a few years. It's nice and warm out there. He loves it.
I know. I don't blame him, especially in the winter when we're freezing up here in the winter. And I know you guys probably do too in Pittsburgh. So, yeah, it's like I want to be in Arizona. So now moving forward, what are the plans? Will you go ahead and do shows with this album, or is it primarily you're looking towards, you're back in business with Love and Chains? Because Mike kind of alluded to me about that there was some stuff coming with Love and Chains as well.
Yeah, we are finished with that album and just putting the final touches on, the mastering, the marketing, the promotion, and making sure that, we've got things lined up before that gets released. So yeah, that's coming.
Cool.
And there's more on the way. Yeah, I don't know the distance, and we're not hugely popular, Sean and I. So, but there's definitely, we've got more songs, lots more songs in the works. So there's definitely going to be more music coming from Sean and I.
Good. I'm glad to hear that because, like I said, this is a great album. Is there physical copies of the album available?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
It's only streaming, and you can download, the MP3s from Bandcamp, but maybe in the future there will be physical copies.
Okay. The reason I ask is I'm a physical copy guy, so I would go ahead and buy it.
Yeah, I know.
It's cool. Whatever. I mean, at least it's out there, right? At the end of the day, your music's out there and people can listen to it, and that's the main thing. Is that people can hear this. And for my listeners that are listening to this podcast, I highly recommend, if you're a fan of the 80s genre and the hard rock genre, whatever you want to call it, this is an album to check out. So
appreciate that.
No problem, man. Maybe possibly when you guys are done the Love and Chains album, it comes out, I can have, if you and Mike want to come on, or you want to come on and talk about that album too, that would be fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay, perfect. I'll watch for it, and then I'll reach out, and I'm sure, I don't know if I did tell Mike, I said, I want to have you back on the show because it's been about 5 or 6 years since I had him on, but Mike's awesome because he always reaches out to me. He'll see something I comment on Facebook. I think the last thing was about Warrant and Janie Lane, and he's like, I saw your comment on Warrant. And I was like, yeah, what'd you think? He's like, that was cool. So he's always awesome.
Yeah, Mike's a great guy. I'm so happy that I was able to connect with Mike, and we've got some great music coming out between the two of us. But we both grew up, we kind of missed each other back in the day. We grew up in the same area, Youngstown, Warren area in Ohio, and never really crossed paths. And a mutual friend of mine introduced us. He was working with Ronnie Williams, who is the guitar player from Lazarus way back in the day. I don't know if you ever heard of them. And he's like, yeah, Mike's got this stuff and he's looking for a singer. And I'm like, I'll do that. So give me his number. So I called him up, and that's how the Love and Chains thing started.
That's awesome. And I mean, I loved that Mike went and got Roy Cathy and Anthony White from Cold Sweat to play in Steel City too. I just thought, I was like, that is so cool, because I love Cold Sweat and I love those guys. They're great. I mean, they're great guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was just gonna say that. And Roy, man, Roy's voice and he's just, I guess say, I mean, I'll admit it, I envy Roy. I'm a front man only because I like to sing, but I'm not a front man. You know what I mean? Okay. Roy is a front man. Yeah. Like when you go to see Roy, he puts on a show. He's got the moves, he's got the look, he's got the voice. Like Roy is the complete package. And to boot, he doesn't have lead singer's disease, right? He's a great guy.
He's just a great dude. Yeah. Right? He's the mouth of the South, as he proclaims himself. But Roy is the best. And I always say to him, I'm like, Roy, Jakey Lee should have hired you to sing in Red Dragon Cartel or whatever he was doing.
Yeah.
Because his version on the Bevan Davies album of doing High Wire, it's like I've never heard anybody do it quite as well. And no disrespect to Darren Smith, who is actually from where I live. Darren Smith is from this area, and unfortunately, Darren's going through dementia now, and there's a benefit coming out. So I will make mention of that because nobody deserves to go through that. And
oh yeah, no, not at all. That's horrible.
So. But about Roy, I always say, like, you should have been the guy with, like, because you sing Ray Gillen so well.
Yeah.
And he does Dio amazing too. Like,
yes.
you know, it's crazy. And he hasn't lost a step in his vocals.
No, not at all.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, he takes care of himself, you know, he works out and, you know, he takes care of his voice and, you know, he doesn't, you know, do crazy things and drugs and smoke and, you know, all that stuff. So, yeah.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah, good for him. Well, Rob, I want to thank you for joining me today. It truly
thanks for having me.
Been a pleasure, man. It was great talking music and talking about Kane and the album and how much I love it. Is there anything you'd like to add before I let you go?
No, just, you know, thank you for having me. I love talking, you know, I'm geeking out on production stuff and mixing and, you know, songs, and appreciate you having me. Yeah. You know, everybody go check it out. Appreciate it. You know, independent music, independent rock.
Yeah.
You know, we do this because we love to do it, and because, you know, hopefully we've got fans out there that want to listen to it. So,
yeah. And I mean, that's the premise of the reason I do my podcast, because I love talking about music and being a huge music fan. And I get to talk to other artists about music. It's not about anything but that for me. You know what I mean? It's like, I will admit this. I had a sponsorship the other day, a couple weeks ago. Someone that was like an ad put on my podcast. I got a 3-cent payout for an ad.
wow.
You know what I mean? So it's never about that. It's always about the music and having guys like you on the show and being able to talk about great music that's out there and production quality and all that stuff. So I appreciate it. And we will talk again. And
Sounds good.
Right on. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You as well. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too, Rob. Take care, man. Cheers.